Kia ora, Chris Parkin here for NZDP 101. And this video is probably going to end up sitting in week 5. However, it also applies to my students who are currently taking it this is 2018, and intake 1 and 2. And Adobe's just introduced something that's kind of changes the way we do masking, and have integrated a lot of the workflow that you would normally do. But if you don't work out exactly where the functions are, it can be a little bit confusing. So instead of having the refine mask tool, which we used to have, they've now got this select and mask function. So you can get at it by clicking on the selection tool and then select and mask, or you can get at it by clicking on a mask and then select and mask. If you try the mask function first, it can cause problems because everything at the moment is selected as a mask, and it can just be a little bit frustrating and slightly counterintuitive. So first things first, we'll drag and drop this onto the layer that we're using for the image, and Control T, and I'm going to hold down Alt and zoom out so I can resize this. Remember to hold down Shift when you're doing the resize. There is another video to go with this to give you a better walkthrough of this, but let's get into that first. All right. So at the moment, everything is being masked and revealed. So if we select mask option and add to the mask, and we click, nothing at all happens. So you actually need to take away from the mask at this point. Now you can see it's changing color a little bit. If we shift the transparency function, it's adding to the mask selection. Now you saw there it just went the wrong way. So if you hold down Shift, you should be able to put this back in. And this is the quick select tool, just like you'd normally have in the rest of the Photoshop. And you can see it's a little bit rather vicious on what it's doing. So let's hold down Shift, and actually I'm going to hold down Control Alt and Z and undo that, and then change to a smaller selection tool, and that's not working there. So because it's making a mess of this selection here, what I can do is go to the brush tool, and just like you would in a paintbrush, if you're editing this, it's the same functionality, except that obviously you have to hold Alt this time to make that go negative. So they've not quite got it intuitive yet. It's a combination of the old functionality, and hold down your spacebar to move, or you can select the negative function, and that will continue to remove. Now the idea of this is if we've got a nice clean background like the back of, unlike what we've got at the moment, if we go Refine Edge tool, sometimes Photoshop will actually select an edge quite happily, i.e. in this case it's selected that piece of hair, which is brilliant. What it's also done is selected the back of the wall, which is not so useful. So we need to go through and remove the shadows basically of that wall, and clean that up. And then in here it looks like it's also removed some of the pixels that are of her head, which is also not very good. So we need to go through and refine that. Now if we follow the edge of her head down, and this is just still using the brush functionality, we can fill that back in. We can go to Refine Edge tool, use the square brackets to change the size, and no, that made an utter pig's ear of it. So because there's not enough contrast difference between the hair and the back wall. We're going to have to do this one manually and just basically take your time and refine that edge. What's it doing? Get off. And yeah, literally it's just going to take time and patience to get that edge sorted. But that's using the brush functionality. So just the same as if you click on this, grab the brush tool, which is here, and then you can use the brush function to draw on the layer mask. Now that's great, but the advantage of doing it in the Select and Mask tool is you can switch really quickly between the Quick Select tool and the Refine Edge and the Lasso tool. So basically it puts all of your tools together in one area. Do remember to clean up the edges as well. The downside, of course, is that the functionality is not quite the same. So where you press X to reverse the color if you're actually working on the layer mask, it doesn't do that. So yeah, you do need to be a little bit careful there. If we zoom out, you can see it's still got quite a lot of work to do on that, but that's hopefully a little bit of an introduction to using that Select and Mask tool. And that Refine Edge tool will become particularly useful when you're doing the portrait upgrade and you've got a much cleaner image and a much cleaner background, and hopefully you'll be able to select some of the hair out using that tool more easily. So hope that helps. Cheers.